down to that point of, yeah, Chicago 7. Really, I mean, in the year of Green Book where that won over Roma, it's like you could kind of look back at it and see the path. It's like, okay, clearly number one with Roma, the problem was not enough voters liked it enough or thought it was interesting enough to vote for it number one, or they were concerned about it winning foreign language film or international. It was not known as international film at the time, but yeah, international film. They were like, oh, I already voted for it there. It's like, clearly they didn't have that problem the next year with Parasite. But still, there was just enough of that going on and enough love for Green Book and enough people that put it 2 and 3 for that one to go through. And on top of it, Green Book had a Golden Globe win. It had a PGA win, and it was nominated everywhere else. Seemingly it could be, except for like SAG Ensemble was like the only place it was really missing a nomination in a key top category there. I believe it even, and somebody will correct me if I'm wrong here, but it did get a BAFTA nomination for picture too, didn't it? I'm pretty sure it did. I don't think it won anything at BAFTA except for supporting actor, of course, which was largely the case kind of going into some of those final awards, like at SAG. I believe that was its only win too. It did get a film nomination. It only had 4, and that was kind of our first sign that Peter Farrelly might not make it in, because that was one place I think he missed director. He even got in at DGA. But I don't know. It's like Chicago 7. It's like it won screenplay at the Globes, but then that was it. I think, like myself, I had it winning a picture there. Couldn't win PGA. The best it could do was tie at the Critics' Choice for the Film Editing Award, and then it did win the Ensemble Award, which doesn't directly cross over to the Oscars, but it's still one that I think holds a little bit of weight there. Did win, like we mentioned, Ensemble there, but lost DGA, of course. Went home empty-handed at BAFTA and stuff, so it's like, really, except for the Ace Eddie and the SAG win, Ensemble win, it really, again, has been kind of on a letdown kind of trajectory here since the Golden Globes night. Because up to that point, I think a lot of us had it either winning Best Picture or in second or third place. Right now, I have it in third still, but yeah, I think it was more or less like if anybody was going to take down Nomadland, a lot of us had our money on Chicago 7 at that point. But so I'll kind of consider a few things, and I'll see, okay, if there's any, reports that come out this week about, different voters and what they're feeling and stuff, then we'll see if it's really still ranking high enough on enough of those ballots to kind of push the needle a little bit, maybe. Okay, director, we mentioned Chloe Zhao, that's over. Okay, here we go. Best actor. Oh boy, I'm not pulling the trigger yet, but it is damn tempting to put Anthony Hopkins here to win. And I say that with a little bit of a sting, though, because again, I think in my mind, Chadwick gave the better performance. He's won more awards this year than Anthony Hopkins has. And I mean, it's the last chance for Chadwick. We know 100%. Anthony Hopkins, maybe in the next couple of years, does get another role or two that gives him a shot at getting his second Oscar. But we don't know that we know that for sure. It's not going to be a chance for Chadwick. And I was kind of thinking about it today. It's like you go back to some winners back in the day, and it's like there's some that you look at and it's like, oh, it probably should have been so and so, but they didn't, and especially in this category, and they didn't win. Some people argue. I haven't seen both the films, but back in 1939, Clark Gable, a lot of people thought should have won for playing Rhett Butler in Gone with the Wind, because that had swept almost every other award that night. but they gave it to Robert. I forget, is it Donut or Donay or whatever? Goodbye, Mr. Chips, which, to my understanding, yes, is a terrific performance and probably was the better of the two. But that's one that some people look at like, oh, it should have been, so and so, but it wasn't. People look to Humphrey Bogart losing for Casablanca to Paul Lucas for Watch on the Rhine. As one that, and later that was more or less corrected by Bogart winning for African Queen almost a decade later. But so that was one where it's like, oh, it probably should have been, Let me see here. Kind of going through the rest of them here, at least in those years, it's like, yeah, for the most part, I think largely history says they got it right. I mean, let me look through here. I'm kind of up to the late 40s at this point. It's like, yeah, you can make some arguments, here and there, but it's like, I don't know, there's not really anybody who stands out like, oh, they definitely should have won. I mean, probably the one, as we get into the early 50s that a lot of people look at as probably the better performance, but it lost because of other circumstances, actually is the Humphrey Bogart example. Marlon Brando in Streetcar Named Desire, that was one. That film, I think, has come the closest of any film in history to winning all four of the acting categories, because it won the other three. And Brando, you gotta think he was in second place there. I mean, sure, he had some pretty notable films there, like Death of a Salesman and Place in the Sun, which had Frederick March and Montgomery Clift nominated, respectively. But still, I think a lot of people would have probably, if they'd done it over again, would have picked Marlon Brando there in that one. Let's see here. And again, obviously, he did win for On the Waterfront a few years later there. Let's see. Kind of looking through, were there any other ones in the late 50s that everybody said they got wrong? I mean, not really. In the 60s, I know there's one example I'll get to here in a minute. Let's see here. No, probably not that one. I was going to say something with Richard Burton, the year he lost to Rex Harrison, but it's like, yeah, I'd say I'd make the bigger argument, and I haven't seen A Man for All Seasons, but the fact that Richard Burton did not win for Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf is a crime. That, or you could easily picked him though for Spy Who Came In From the Cold too. That was a pretty good performance. And I love Lee Marvin though. He's a terrific actor. I haven't seen that film Cat Ballou, but that's one I think a lot of people in lists will say like the worst Best Actor winners ever. It's like Lee Marvin usually is kind of maybe not always like the number one, but he's like kind of in the top 10, I think. Let's see here, going through here. I mean, some people will say, either Hoffman or Jon Voight should have won over John Wayne in True Grit. My grandmother always says that was his worst performance. How did he win for that? Let's see here. When you go into the 70s, probably the biggest one here, I mean, that people look back in history and say, oh, it should have been, but it wasn't. Al Pacino for Godfather Part 2. He lost to Art Carney for Harry and Tonto. Yeah, and even that year, I think a lot of people would have said, oh, what about Jack Nicholson in Chinatown? It's like, I think, yeah, maybe, obviously they're both terrific, terrific performances. But I think maybe that year there was a pretty, a split vote that happened there. And Art Carney, kind of became a favorite that year. And then obviously Nicholson came back the next year and won for Cuckoo's Nest. Let's see here. Who else? Yeah, after that, it's like, for the most part, I feel like historically a lot of people look at like all the winners through like the rest of the 70s and 80s, like, yeah, they got it right. With the exception probably of Paul Newman winning for Color of Money, because I think a lot of people that year probably would have picked, well, I don't know. I mean, it was kind of all over the place because, Dexter Gordon for Around Midnight got a few votes that year for sure. William Hurt had just won for Children of the Lesser God, so even though I think, I haven't seen that one, but it seemed like it was a terrific performance and everything. And he was, nominated 3 years in a row. because he got in the next year for Broadcast News and had won the year before for Kiss of the Spider Woman. It was kind of tough to pick one that year, but it's like, yeah, Paul makes sense there. And then, yeah, obviously another one that people say, oh, it's a makeup one, was Al Pacino winning for Scent of a Woman. When, yeah, it probably should have been Denzel for Malcolm X that year. Probably should have been, yeah. Otherwise it's like, I don't know. I mean, I don't really know, like, definitely some people think Ian McKellen should have won for Gods and Monsters over Roberto Benigni, but, I mean, again, Benigni's good in the movie. I mean, just as an actor. I mean, obviously, directing and stuff, he did a good job too, but, yeah. Kind of going through here, yeah. I'll get back. I have something to say about Adrian Brody here in a minute, because it's kind of a comparison there. But, and I was going to say something about that for The Pianist, too. But, we'll get to that here in a minute. Otherwise, I don't really see, it's like, kind of in recent memory here, I mean, Jean Dujardin winning over George Clooney in my book was one I would have taken back, but, it's not the biggest deal in the world. Arguably, the rest of them, it's like, for me personally, Gary Oldman winning, it's like, yeah, he was good in it. He was kind of chewing the scenery for the most part. I would have given it to Timothée Chalamet that year, but it's still, it's like, you don't fault, the people who won, obviously. And I think if Anthony Hopkins does come back and win next Sunday, it's like, no, but, there's going to be a lot of angry people on Twitter and stuff, but it's like, I don't know. It's like the last person you blame for that, though, is Anthony Hopkins, because it's like he's just the actor doing the work, man. And if he in the mind of the voters does a better job, then that's the one they go with. So I was kind of going through that because I'm like, okay, are we kind of due for another one like that, where even the night of the ceremony, there's going to be a lot of people saying, history 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 30 years from now, a lot of people are going to look back and they're going to say, how the fuck did the Academy mess this up and fucking go with Anthony Hopkins over Chadwick Boseman? I can kind of already hear that ringing in my ears from, like, I know, like, the Gold Derby, I'll watch some of their after shows, and it's like some of their staff members are, like, always ticked off when their predictions don't come through, or if the ones they wanted to win don't win, So I can already hear that kind of ringing in the back of my ears. But again, I'm thinking back to it. I'm like, again, remember what happened at SAG with both Chadwick and Viola winning, and Ma Rainey's having an ensemble nomination on top of it. I think the actors do like that movie, arguably, more than they did with The Father, because that went home empty-handed at SAG with just the 2 nominations. But again, remember, some of it is all about momentum, too, because Anthony Hopkins, remember, and The Father have definitely risen in the last few weeks here as the film has been more largely seen, and a lot of people have caught up with it now, and it's like, definitely, my folks at home, I showed them The Father, and everybody around the room basically just agreed. They said, how can Anthony Hopkins not win for this? Because he's so fantastic. But I don't think any of them have seen Ma Rainey's, though. So it's, I don't know. So it's like, if they had, if they see both, maybe they would agree with me more. But that's, beside the point. So it's going to be very, very interesting. And again, I'm going to really keep my eyes peeled for those ballots and stuff. And see, is this a situation like we saw a couple of years ago with, and I feel like I'm repeating myself because we've said it in all videos, but it's like, is it Olivia Colman winning over Glenn Close all over again, because if enough people, again, like we saw arguably in some of these years where, historically we think they gave it to the wrong person, like Art Carney, for example, or Cat Blue's Lee Marvin. Is it, was that just their favorite performance that year, and everybody who was predicting it, or everybody historically, just didn't clue into that? It very easily could be, and I could very easily miss it and feel like, ugh. But it's like, again, I kind of feel a little bit too like I did with Vanessa Kirby getting the nomination, because I remember there I was like, it was tempting to go with like Sophia Loren or somebody random that we would project as seeing Best Actress, just because enough people had not seen that film, Pieces of a Woman. But I was like, I don't know. I said it's gonna hurt me. It's gonna metaphorically kill me to predict her to miss, and then for her to make it when it's my favorite performance in the category. So it's like, yeah, a part of me is going to feel like a major dickhead and a fucking idiot if I get this wrong. I'm like, I've had, obviously not the whole season, because I actually did start with Anthony Hopkinson first, but I'm going to feel like such an idiot if Chadwick wins all these awards. Was my prediction since, I don't know, what was that, probably late October, somewhere in there, since then at least, and has stuck at number one, and then I, at the last week, in the last minute, pull him out, put somebody else there, and then Chadwick comes through to win. I'm going to feel I'm going to feel awful if that happens. So, I don't know. It's a very tempting, like a plus 250 or whatever if you're a gambling person, in the odds or whatever. It's like, it kind of feels like we're almost at that stage in the race here. But, yeah. I think, the deciding factor for me is definitely going to be, okay, if any of these major publications like Thompson on Hollywood or, some of these other ones actually talk to Oscar voters and say, okay, I've seen a lot of them are saying they're voting for Anthony Hopkins, or a lot of them are saying, we think Chadwick's going to win, so I'm voting for Anthony Hopkins just because I like that performance better. Or, we see enough, reports and stuff. If enough of that happens, I might just jump the fence on that one and go with Anthony. But it's going to be tough. Speaking of tough, Best Actress. Here's something what I wanted to mention with Adrian Brody here. Obviously, if we're going to have an Adrian Brody this year, it's going to be Vanessa Kirby, because she's, I don't think she's the youngest of the group. But remember, Adrian was the youngest of the group. He'd never won before. And he was in a Best Picture nominee, rather. And that was another thing interesting, too, because I kind of thought about it, too, and I'm like, okay, for what would really help Nomadland early on in the Oscar telecast is, okay, who wins screenplay, adapted screenplay? Because, again, I'm very much on the fence on that one, too. If it's Nomadland, then it's like almost 100% Nomadland's going to win Best Picture, because I was thinking through today, I'm like, okay, when was the last time we saw a film win screenplay and director and lose Best Picture? And I believe it is The Pianist. I think that's the last one to do it, because that one adapted that year at one actor and at one director, but then Chicago came through for Best Picture. Man, and I was kind of thinking through, I'm like, I can't even think of a more modern one than that to do so. Let's see here. I can look. Let's see here. Winning films. Okay, I don't know why they have it lined up like that. Oh, here. These are all films that have won an Oscar. Oh, geez. Yeah, that's way too long. Sorry. I was going to look up like the winners of Best Picture here just in the last few years just to double check my math on that. But, let's see here. Here we go. Yeah, Best Picture. Let's see. Because, I mean, like we said, unless you're Shape of Water, or The Artist, you're winning screenplay too. In very, very recent years here. But it's like, I'm trying to think what else, has done that. And it's like nothing is really coming to mind, because more often than not, screenplay and director go together if you're winning picture. Crash, it won picture and screenplay, lost for director, but was nominated. Let me see here. Again, I'm kind of looking through here, and it's like, Beautiful Mind won director, yeah. Gladiator, I think that's the last one, I believe. I mean, again, I could be really wrong here, but Was that the last one to lose both screenplay and director but still win picture? That might have been. Yeah, because they lost to Traffic that year or something. Or on the original side. Oh no, Almost Famous. I think Almost Famous won that year for that. That's right. Yeah, and again, I just remembered that right now when I saw it. Yeah, I'm not really thinking of nothing's really coming to mind here for that. Oh, maybe was Born on the 4th of July one that won both and then lost? That could have been one. Oh, it lost screenplay. That would have been, oh crap, 89. I don't know. Off the top of my head, I can't remember. Dead Poets? No, that was an original. Was Driving Miss Daisy adapted? I thought that was in the original category. And that might have lost screenplay too. No, that was adapted and it won. Okay. I know. I feel like... anyways. I don't know. Yeah, that's long enough. Yeah, I'm not going to go all the way back. I guess technically, Chariots of Fire was one. That one screenplay, though. I'm pretty sure. Okay. Whatever. I feel like I've been on that too long. So, yeah, that was one thing. And then the other thing I was going to say, yeah, with The Pianist was, yeah, obviously it was the Adrian Brody thing. So I'm like, that's really the only argument I see anymore for Vanessa Kirby. Otherwise, yeah, I think it's still a legit four-way race between everybody. And again, another sign, if Promising Young Woman loses screenplay but wins actress, it could be kind of like The Favorite from a couple of years ago. Because remember, a lot of people had that one winning screenplay. I did not. I had it going actually to not Green Book, but First Reformed in an upset there. But yeah, The Favorite, we were all kind of going through. It's like, wow, it's going to go for 10, but then Best Actress happened. So yeah, I think, and I'm not, again, I that's why I kind of said the most it can win is 2. That's with Carrie and with the original screenplay. But I don't know. I don't really see it going beyond that. And it's kind of a tough call if it's just going to win one. Okay, which one is it going to pull through? Because again, it could be one or it could be the other. It could be Carrie winning and then it loses screenplay to Chicago 7 if all of a sudden that wins picture and screenplay and kind of repeats what Spotlight did. Or if it also wins editing, then it repeats what Argo did. We'll see there. But again, I think a lot of people are more just in the line of Emerald Fennell there winning. And I think... yeah, again, we'll get to that category in a minute here, but yeah, I'm still thinking, yeah, that one probably is Promising Young Woman. Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I feel like, again, Viola Davis, it's a movie that the actors clearly liked because they gave it Best Actress at SAG. She was not nominated at BAFTA, but she's still, a very, very popular actress, and definitely, again, an actress, like Anthony Hopkins in the actor side, it's like nobody's going to, say undeserved if he wins or she wins 2 Oscars. And they could actually both win 2 Oscars, their second Oscar the same night. That would actually kind of be fitting. Man, that's actually... No, we're not going there. We're not going there. That's a little string theory kind of projecting that. I'm kind of tempted because actually there's been a lot of people saying that there's actually out in Los Angeles, a lot of people are really thinking Andra Day is actually standing a really good shot of winning here, even though she was only nominated at Globes and SAG Globes and Critics' Choice before this. Obviously, she won the Globe in a pretty big upset there. And since then she's kind of been MIA, but it's still, and even though, again, it's a movie like Pieces of a Woman that I think largely the Academy has not seen, or at least they've only seen enough of it to say, okay, I tried watching it and it wasn't for me, because I think both are critically, they're below, I think, 75% on Rotten Tomatoes, so there's definitely some people that are critics of the films. But yeah, that being said, though, I think Andra Day, she's arguably maybe in third place, and if there is enough split voting going on, maybe she does come through to win. I don't know. I mean, it's, it is kind of a younger, actress. She does fit that kind of ingenue kind of role, like I was arguing for Vanessa Kirby all year, more or less. And again, you go down the list with Jennifer Lawrence and with Emma Stone and Brie Larson and, there's definitely other ones, through the years, Grace Kelly and everything, so on and so forth. So, Andra Day kind of fits that, but it's like, I don't know, a couple of years ago, Lady Gaga, she had an early tie with Critics' Choice for Best Actress, and she didn't come through to win as a mostly known as a singer turned actor, in that same respect there. So, yeah, I mean, I kind of, that's why I kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Whatever. Whatever. I'm stuck on it. That's why I'm kind of boxing that one away. Like, okay, it's probably the Lady Gaga thing over again. But obviously, of course, you'll make the same argument for Leslie Odom Jr., though, in supporting actor. It's like, yeah, he's ahead to win for song. I think there's still a chance for some upsets there. But, Lady Gaga was there, but it's like Andra Day isn't even nominated for song. So it's like, again, the only chance to award her is here. And everything, so I don't know. And then you've got Frances McDormand, the BAFTA winner, and again, it's like, okay, are we looking at a scenario like not Hilary Swank, sorry, Tilda Swinton, who was kind of nominated consistently everywhere, won at BAFTA, and then repeated at the Oscars. It could very easily be that scenario, and especially if Nomadland, again, is kind of a top priority for voters and, enough of them watch it at a certain point in time or whatever, they might just be, stricken with the performance and just say, yeah, compartmentalize. That's the word I was looking for, for Andra Day. See, I can't even repeat it now. Fuck it. Moving on. But Frances, again, I kind of said last time, it's like she's got a cool factor, too. I think a lot of voters, every time she's up, I think a lot of people like seeing her nominated and stuff, So she'll definitely have some votes in that respect. Viola Davis is another, in some respects, kind of has a little bit of cool factor too, as well. So yeah, it's like, yeah, it's again, this is definitely a, you can almost split it 5 ways, and you can make a really sound argument for all of them. Historical argument too. For all of them as well. So, and then again, that's based on how their film is performed, and it's about what awards they've won and how they repeat and stuff, and yeah. And Vanessa Kirby, like I said, probably if it is her winning, it's an Adrian Brody type win there. But again, I don't really see the vote splitting going that far down the list to where she can win. And again, a big argument against that one too is Pieces of a Woman is not The Pianist. It's not up for director. It's not up also for picture. It's not winning in screenplay, and so on and so forth. So, I can't, even though again I would love to see it, it's just not going to happen. So, yeah, legit though, the other 4, you stand on a lot more solid ground. I think with those. And really, I mean, I don't think you can't really laugh at anybody who's picking any of the other 4. I mean, and I honestly would not laugh at anybody who is actually thinking that Vanessa Kirby actually can still come through, because a little over a week ago, I had her winning still, just kind of as an FU a little bit, but still. Yeah, but still, I mean, in all honesty, it's like, this is one where it's like, nobody, is gonna, ha he at you if you pick them, whereas, some, if you're not following it very closely and you pick like Lakeith Stanfield for supporting actor, or, Gary Oldman for actor. It's like some of the people that are kind of lower in the list there. It's like, yeah, you might have some people that are like, they're just not paying attention because it's clearly this. You know, it's like, no, you can't make that argument here in Best Actress. Absolutely not, because it's a tight one, and it's going to be. Again, I'm really going to look to see, okay, who are the voters really, really liking here, and who are they going to go with? I need to pull up that article again that Ann Thompson had. I believe this was almost a week ago now. Or maybe it was right after BAFTA. It was like early in the week maybe. But I thought that voter went with Frances, but I can't remember. All right. And what I thought about this too. Not long after I shot the last video, I'm like, I kind of thought about with Carey Mulligan, maybe one thing that might be hurting her and maybe an explanation for why she hasn't been winning and why she may not win on Sunday. And that is that, I mean, it's obviously, you know, there's no direct comparison we can make here because, you know, largely though in the past few, you know, 10, 15 years in supporting actor, we've seen a lot of those kind of sly, kind of bully characters or even outright villain characters winning, you know, with Javier Bardem and Heath Ledger and Christoph Waltz and J.K. Simmons to an extent. They've all been winning those awards, and almost all of them have been sweeps in their respective years. And Carey Mulligan, I mean, you can't exactly call her the biggest hero of the five that are nominated here, because she does some stuff that's not very nice. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, you know, I still, you know, you kind of root for the character. You know, you hope that she, you know, makes her point and that she gets everything across there. And it's kind of hard not to root for her when she's surrounded by a lot of despicable people in so many scenes in the film and stuff. But at the same time, it's like there's enough vulnerability there. I mean, there's vulnerability to more or less amongst all those other examples we mentioned there with their individual performances and stuff. Definitely with the J.K. Simmons character, for example. And there's a little bit there with the Christoph Waltz character, too. But yeah, with Carey Mulligan, though, it's like, yeah, there's a couple moments where she's legit, you know, like just being a regular person and stuff, you know, the pharmacy scene and stuff. Where it's like, yeah, she's not being despicable. It's like, I don't know, I can't really call her a hero. She's kind of more anti-hero in many ways. I think that's a fair remark there. I mean, you know, you might disagree with me. You might just see her as an outright hero or whatever. You know, definitely a big feminist, you know, kind of type hero in that way. You know, what have you. But still, it's like, again, you know, a lot of these kind of type of roles, and again, this is not a direct comparison because she's not just an outright villain through the film, because, you know, overall, she's doing stuff that I think a lot of us, you know, and again, we all have our different opinions here, but it's like a lot of us are saying, yeah, she's kind of got the higher ground in some of these arguments and stuff. Definitely, but still, it's like a lot of those roles, if they're going, you know, in that kind of villain route, really, it's like if they don't win everything, they don't win the Oscar. It's, you know, like we said, J.K. Simmons swept that year. Christoph Waltz swept. Javier Bardem, I believe, swept or nearly swept that year. And Heath Ledger definitely swept that year. So, yeah, and it's like Carey, you know, she lost the Globe, lost SAG, wasn't even nominated by BAFTA. It's like the only place that awarded her was Critics' Choice, and arguably maybe the critics, you know, have liked this movie the best of any of the groups. You know, you could make that argument. I don't know. But it's, I don't know. I mean, it's tempting to, you know, to go with somebody else, but it's like, I don't really know who to go with. I mean, I don't really see Nomadland going 5 for 6 if it wins screenplay and actress. I think it only wins one of them. Geez, I don't know. That's tough. And it's like Viola Davis, it's like, yeah, I mean, this would be, I believe, the first time, somebody could probably fact check me on this, and I'm not going to look up, you know, 600 different articles just to find it. But I believe this would be the first time that actor and actress have lined up in a non-Best Picture nominee, because As Good as It Gets won both, and that was at least nominated. Obviously, Silence of the Lambs won both almost 30 years ago. That was the Best Picture winner. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It Happened One Night. Stuff like that. But and there might have been one other one in there that I'm forgetting. Oh, Network. Network won both, and then that lost. But that was nominated for picture. I think we've named all the ones that have won both somewhere in there. But yeah, it would be the first time that's happened, and it's like, I don't know. I mean, Viola, again, she wasn't even nominated by BAFTA, and it's tough. And SAG, again, the actors really support the movie, and it's gonna be strange though if Viola wins but Chadwick doesn't, because through the vast bulk of the season, it's been Chadwick winning. Viola picks up a couple here and there with critics' prizes, and then later with SAG. But then BAFTA, they both, one was not even nominated, the other one lost. So it's like, it'd be weird if Viola wins, but then Chadwick doesn't. It's like Viola comes back to win, and Chadwick, who has almost been the front runner through virtually the season, and definitely after he was confirmed to be in lead actor, for him to lose last minute, I mean, that's going to be very, very strange if that happens. I don't know. So it's like, I don't know. Part of me doesn't want to pick it for that reason, but it's like, I don't know. Just in this moment here, and again, I bounce around with this all the time. I still have Carrie out front right now, but maybe right this minute live, I might switch to Viola Davis. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. And then it's like, but Frances, again, BAFTA winner, and it's most recent, but at the same time, Viola's SAG win, though, was, the week before BAFTA. So that was like, again, right in a good spot where, Oscar voters were getting ready to start filling out their ballots. So, God damn, that's tough. I don't know. Maybe I'll just throw my hands up and go Andra Day. I don't know. Okay, no changes for now. I'm sticking with Carrie, but it's like, I'm definitely going to watch that like a hawk this week and see, okay, what's everybody seeing there on their ballots and stuff. Okay, supporting actor, Daniel Kaluuya, done. I feel like that's an easy one. Supporting actress, again, unless we see Glenn Close come back in a huge victory, and it's just enough people saying, I'm not even going to watch the film, but I'm still voting for Glenn Close, just so we can give her an Oscar. If there's enough of that, then Yoo Ye-jung is just vulnerable enough, I think, here to lose. But again, I feel like there's a rallying support, a rallying cry around the movie, and I feel like they've got to give it something. And more or less, this is the most sound, category for them to win. So I'm gonna go Yoo Ye-jung there. Okay, original screenplay. Again, Promising Young Woman feels like it's on really solid ground here after a win at Critics' Choice, WGA, and BAFTA. But again, I think you got to watch out for Chicago 7. If it becomes the Best Picture winner, I think if enough people vote for it, in picture, I think enough of them are going to vote for it in either editing or screenplay, or maybe both. Because I don't see it winning supporting actor, I don't see it winning song, and I don't see it winning cinematography. So it's if it's going to win 2, it's probably most likely going to be screenplay and picture. If it's going to win 3, then the third one would be editing. And I don't know, that'd be a weird combo to win only editing and picture. I don't really see that happening. And then some people have even made the argument, what if it's Chicago 7 that wins picture but nothing else? The first time that would happen in almost 90 years. Grand Hotel, the last one to do it. And of course, as we always say, historically that was the only film that ever got a Best Picture nomination, nothing else, but still won Best Picture. So, I don't know. I've seen actually a couple headlines, a couple articles that have been published here in the last couple weeks. Some people are thinking that could happen. It would be a strange scenario, but of course it's been a fucking strange year, so it would be kind of fitting. But I don't know. I mean, just especially in this category, it feels like Emerald Fennell, we all know she's very, 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 very unlikely to win director. So if you're going to award her anywhere, it's here. And, you know, Aaron Sorkin, you know, 10 years ago won for Social Network in the writing category. So, yeah, I mean, it's probably Promising Young Woman. But again, if you're betting on the upsets, then Chicago 7 is probably the one to go with here. If you're thinking that Nomadland is going to fall short in picture, and they're going to go with Chicago 7, you know, doing the Argo thing and all that, pulling an Argo, then it could happen. But again, I think the more solid ground right now is on Promising Young Woman. Okay, now adapted screenplay. Again, up to this moment, I'm still friggin' wrestling this in my mind, and I still don't know what to go with here. Because again, historically, Nomadland, you know, lines up with that idea of picture going with screenplay and stuff like that. They're lining up. But it's like, okay, are we due? Because it was like a 6-year gap between Shape of Water and The Artist.